right, so within Pardot, we have two different types of emails. If we go to our marketing and email, you'll see here we have a new list email or a new email template. So what's the difference? An email template is going to be a base template that you might use for autoresponders, one-to-one emails, engagement studio emails, or maybe you have a base template for a newsletter that you might send to a list email. The only thing you want to do is change out the pictures and change out the text. So it's considered a template. So let's go ahead and jump into our email templates real quick before we get into list emails. So I'm going to go ahead and choose new email template. I'm just going to name this Demo Monthly Newsletter. We want to choose a campaign that's going to associate with this template. We can change it if we use this within a list email. However, for this case, I'm just going to put emails. And then we have what type of email template is this? Is it HTML and text? And when we say text, that really just means it's a plain text. There's no HTML, no links, no WYSIWYG editor. It is a plain text email. The only time I ever really see this plain text email is for companies or organizations who send to high security company or organizations. For instance, let's say you target the federal government for your emails. Some federal government agencies, they'll only allow text emails. They cannot receive any type of HTML. So no graphics, no links, everything's just plain text. Most of the time, we're going to be setting up HTML and plain text, and not just plain text only. If you are targeting some of those agencies, you can do a plain text email only. However, just a note, if any server does reject an HTML template, Pardot will say, hey, no problem. We have a text version instead if you want this version. So that way it will reject the HTML and Pardot will then send the text version. It will not count against your bounce or spam. It will just send the text version instead. So then we have this available for. Again, like I said a little bit earlier, we have templates in Pardot that we can use for different reasons. We can use them for our sales team. Maybe they want to use them within Salesforce to send one-to-one emails. Maybe we have autoresponders set up, so if somebody fills out a landing page, they'll get an autoresponder email. Maybe for this one, it's for our monthly newsletter, so I want it to be available for list emails. And then our last option is for drip and engagement program emails. So we would use templates to set up our engagement studio or our drip programs. For this use case, this is going to be for a newsletter, which is a list email, so I'm going to uncheck these other options. Why am I unchecking these other options? I'm really trying to keep Pardot clean. As I'm building out list emails, I really don't want to see templates for my drip programs, or I don't want to see autoresponders. Vice versa, if I'm building a drip program or an engagement program, I really don't want to see my one-to-one emails or my autoresponders. I just want to see emails that were made and created for the engagement program. So definitely make sure when you're creating templates to use for other variations that you make sure that you're selecting what you want to use it for. And let's go ahead and hit save. So Pardot does come with layouts that you can use. A lot of these, I'll be honest, I'm just going to ignore. These ones are not responsive. We have to scroll down a bit until we get to our responsive templates. So we can see here we have a responsive image basic, just a responsive basic, a two column basic. I'm just going to go ahead and choose this responsive basic for now as a template, and I'm going to hit apply. Great, so this brings in our WYSIWYG editor with the responsive basic template. If I want to choose a different template, say I brought this in and I'm like, nah, this isn't the one I want, I can go back to the layout and say, all right, I want to do my two column basic. As an FYI, when I hit apply, say I already started making changes in this template, it is going to overwrite it, so just keep that as a note. It's going to say, heads up, changing this template will undo any content pages. Are you sure you want to continue? So Not quite sure why they say any content pages, but any content you create in there, it is going to overwrite it. I'm going to say, yep, not a problem. And then I have my 2-column template. So Pardot is a lot like other WYSIWYG editors for their emails. You can go ahead and select on an item, and then you'll be able to change it right within here. They do a great job of putting, hey, this header is going to need to be 600, and we prefer for a height of 150. Honestly, you can change the height of this image and it's not going to do anything, but you want to make sure that you keep the width 600. If we put an image in here that's not 600, let's just say it's 450, we're going to get that weird white spot right here. So we really want to make sure that we have an image that has the full container width, which is that 600. So I'm going to go back and put in the 600 here. Perfect. So we can, within Pardot, you'll see that we have these repeatable tags. So if I wanted 2 different header images, I could duplicate this row and I have 2 different header images. I can also go ahead and just delete this. And we have the same thing here. We can go ahead and duplicate this row. So if this is for a newsletter, I might want a couple of these block sections right here. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. And that gives me 4 different spaces to have my content. So if I want to go ahead and start adding text within here, I'm just going to select this block. It's going to show up in my WYSIWYG editor here. You have full use, just like in Microsoft Word or Outlook, of your WYSIWYG editor. We can bold. You can have italicized. We can also add in more images if we wanted to. What really makes Pardot strong are our variable tags. Variable tags are awesome. So if I wanted to put content in here and I want to base it off of our prospect, I can go ahead and put in my prospect's first name. And so I can say first name. Check out this awesome tutorial. And let's put a comma right here. So that way, when this email sends out, it's going to personalize it with our prospect's first name and then with the tutorial. There are a lot of uses within variable tags. So we can look here and we can say, all right, what's their account address? Or maybe we want to put in their company name. So we could say, first name, check out this tutorial. Let's just say, see how it could help out. And then maybe we want to put their company name in here. So see how it could help out Apple. And also share this with your friends. So whatever you wanted to put in there. But again, we have really strong use cases within variable tags to personalize our content. Studies do show when you segment and you personalize your content, you have better open rates and you have better click-through rates and you have better engagement overall. Along with the different items that we have for our WYSIWYG, we can do same thing with bullet points. We can do a unordered list. We can do an ordered list, which makes it 1, 2, 3. A couple of items I do want to point out that I think you should play around with as well. A lot of times I have clients who, before they start making their emails, they do everything in Microsoft Word. If you're going to copy and paste from Microsoft Word, definitely copy and paste with this Word icon right here. One of the things that we don't want to do is Word does put some background code that we can't see, and we don't want to add it into our template. We can hit this icon, and then you can copy and paste within here and it will go ahead and bring it in and strip out any of that background code from Word. Another couple of items that you should know up here, if you know HTML, you can definitely go into the HTML here. Oops, there we go. And so you can change in your HTML if you feel more comfortable doing it this way or changing your color, but you don't have to go into the HTML. This is what makes Pardot great. If you're not comfortable with HTML, don't worry, just use the WYSIWYG editor. Another item that I want to show here is we do have this little lightning bolt. What is that lightning bolt? Some of us will have this and some of us might not have it. If you're on the standard platform of Pardot, you will not see the dynamic content, but we're going to get into dynamic content a little bit later. Just know this is the dynamic content icon, so you can bring in content that changes within your email right here. So we'll see the content, and then we also have a styles. This style tabs is only for this block of content right here. So we can change different style depending on the block that we're on. So if I go into styles, I could have this background color. Let's just say I'm looking for a little bit of a gray. Let's go. There we go. So I want that background color to be gray, and maybe I want the text color to be more red. So again, it's only affecting this block for the styles. So we can definitely have more room and creativity with how we want our email to look through the styles tab here. We can choose what font we want for this particular block. We could have it either custom defined in the HTML, so whatever Pardot already has in there, or if I want Helvetica for my font for just this block, I can go ahead and change it right here. We can also change the font height, so if I wanted it to be, or the font size, excuse me, to be 12 pixels, I can change it here. But maybe I want the line height to be a little bit smaller than the 21 pixels. Maybe I want it being 15 pixels. So when we change that, you'll see here that it does bunch it a little bit closer together for the line height. I'm going to jump back to my content section here. Another thing to note, so I'm making changes here, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Like, I did not want to do that. That does not look good. How do I go back? Like, I don't want this at all. One of the ways that we can go back to change is I'm going to go ahead and hit preview real quick, and then I'm going to go back to the editor, and then we'll see our history tab right here. So let's go ahead and hit history. And let's go back because I do not like what I did with changing the background colors. So here's our history. I'm going to go ahead and select it, and it will take me back to my snapshot where before I started putting in all the funky background colors. One thing to note with this history, if I save this draft or if I published a template and leave and the next day I come back and I'm like, oh, you know what, I really want to go back to this template right here, it's not going to be there. This is just during our current session. We can go back, but if you come back the next day, you will not see these recent snapshots. So just an FYI. If we go back to the info, you'll also notice we can put a subject line here. I'm not going to put in a subject line because this is just an email template. I might put in my subject line for my newsletter as I use this template for my newsletter later on. But you do have, if it's for the engagement studio, if it's for an autoresponder, this is where we're going to put our subject line. You'll also see we have an advanced subject line composer. What is that? This is an awesome new tool that Pardot put out. Basically, we can use those variable tags in our subject line, which makes our emails even more personable. Let's go ahead and hit that advanced subject line composer. And if I can insert my variable tags here, so maybe I want to put in our prospect's first name. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say first name. Check out what's new this month. For those of you who do have dynamic content, you can also put your dynamic content in here as well. Let's hit save. So if I send out this email later on, it's going to go ahead and it's going to pull in their first name. So it'll say, Kelly, check out what's new this month. It's pretty awesome. A couple of things to note within our email template. We do have this HTML tab. So what's that? Honestly, the only time I would see you going in here is if you do have developers and designers who will create HTML for you. You can take that HTML code and you can copy and paste it in here. Let me go ahead and show you how to do that. So let's say you have developers on your team and they send you an HTML file to use within Pardot. What we can do is we can open up our HTML file, which I use Atom, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy all this code. I'm going to go ahead and paste it in this HTML area. So this is the code that my developer gave me. I'm going to go into the editor. Boom. So here is our email template. So you can see you can bring in other email templates, and you can still modify them just like you would with the other templates. We can go in here and we can make this bold or italicized or underlined, etc. So we do have the availability of, once our developers do send us a template, we can go ahead and change some of the items within here. I'm going to go ahead and go back and bring up my other template here. All right. So that's what this HTML tab is for. This next preview tab, this will really show us a preview of what our email is going to look like. We can also enable a prospect preview. So that means what will it look like when it gets into their inbox, because we have these variable tags right here. So I can hit enable prospect preview, and it's going to bring in the first name, Jenny. So that's awesome. And then Jenny, her company is Salesforce. So check out this tutorial, see how it could help out Salesforce, and also share this with your friends. So that's what enable prospect preview is. We also have open and pop-up. This really shows you, okay, if we went ahead and downsized, and we can see that this template is responsive. So this is what it would look like at the smallest part, and then full width right here. So you can test your responsiveness here. And then we have this text area. So what's this text area? This is really what I was saying before. For those people who cannot receive HTML emails, you can do plain text here. We can do a couple of items. We can sync from HTML. So basically what it's going to do is going to take all of the text that we have in that HTML and editor. It's going to strip out the code, and it's just going to place the text in here. I will warn you, this is not going to be pretty. So it stripped out the code, and you can see here that we just have plain text now. There's no links, there's no pictures, it just brings in the text, and you will have to clean it up. I will put this little trick for you in our module training, but I will put this little trick for you in our module training. I personally use a MailChimp tool, and I'm going to open it up, to convert my HTML to text email. Again, it does a lot better than this in Pardot. I don't want to have to clean all of this up. So what I would do is I would just go to my HTML tab. I would copy everything here. I would jump over to this tool. I'm going to go ahead and paste my HTML. I'm going to hit convert. Look how nicely that comes out. So I'm going to go ahead and copy all of this. Go back into my monthly newsletter, go into my text, I'm going to select all, I'm going to paste over it because this looks so much better. One thing to note with it, with our unsubscribe and our preference center, and I'm surprised we don't have an error yet, Pardot does not like these parentheses around the unsubscribe and the preference center tag. So definitely take those out, because you will get an error from Pardot before we publish it to a template to say to remove those. So I'm going to take those out from here. That does bring up our next item, where within an email we either have to have the unsubscribe tag or we have to have the main email preference center within our emails when we send out with Pardot. Pardot will not let you publish and send out these emails unless you have either your unsubscribe or your email preference center. So on to the next step. We went ahead and we put in our plain text here. We have our testing tab. So our testing tab, this brings us to where we can go ahead and proof and send this to our internal test list that we created earlier on. So if I wanted to send this to my marketing test list that has the 3 different users, I can go ahead and hit send to test list, and it's going to send it out to all of those 3 users that we put into our test list. They'll get 2 different emails. They'll get the HTML email, and it will say proof in the subject line. They'll also get the plain text email, also with proof in the subject line. When you send to a test list, it will automatically add in the variable tag information. So for my name, it will add in Kelly. One of my other users is Kim. It will add in her name. If we send to an individual email, let's just say I don't want to use my test list, I just want to send it to myself real quick, just to make sure everything looks good, I can put in kelly@mettermarketing.com, send to individual email. We can send to the individual email, As we notice here, I am missing some information. So I haven't, on the sending tab, I haven't said who's going to be the sender of this email. So it's just going to use some temporary data. So right now it did send me a test email. I will not have the variable information written into that email. It's also not going to rewrite my links to be tracked. So it's just purely a test email. It will still have the variable tags in there. So don't get concerned if you use your individual email and it says first_name rather than your first name. For those of you who do have rendering tests available in your Pardot instance, we can also do a render which is powered by Litmus. It's really awesome. So we're going to be able to see what this email looks like with different email clients such as Outlook on your iPhone, on an Android device, Gmail, etc. This does take a little bit to populate. They will send you an email when the test is ready to view. You will be able to see how your email looks like and the different variations of email providers. So our very last step here is we have the sending tab. I'm going to jump over to the sending tab. This is where we can choose who we want the sender of this email to be. We have a couple of options here. We can create a general user, and this general user can be any name goes here. But it has to end with an email domain that we've already set up in our domain section. So it could be help@metamarketing, .com. So I do have this set up in my instance, so it will be able to send it out. And we could put any name here. This is where you mostly see some of those emails that come and it says like, do not reply. But we can have here, it could be Kelly Metter as the sender. We can also send from a specific user in our account. So if I already have an admin user that I want to set up, or I just want to set it up to send on behalf of myself, I can go ahead and do that. Just as a note, when we do send on a specific user, if somebody hits reply back, this user will get the reply. This also means they'll get the out of offices, so it can be kind of hectic. Let your salesperson know, let your VP know if you're going to be sending an email on the behalf of them. One way that I have gotten around this is by putting that general user. So if I go ahead and take this one out, I can put, VP of company and then put do not reply, or even sales. Let's just say sales@metamarketing.com. This way, when the prospect does see the name, they'll see the user's name here, but any of the out of offices, any of the replies are going to go to the sales@metamarketing.com. Pardot does have a custom reply to address, which is pretty neat. So let's just say we want this email to go out on the behalf of the VP of company, but all those out of offices, we want it to go to that do not reply email. But we do want anyone who hits on that reply button, we do want it to go to them. So I could then say, great, if they actually hit the reply button to reply back, I can say, I want it to go to me, because these are people who are interested in what I sent them and they're giving me some feedback or they want a phone call. So I want any replies where they hit that reply button to come to me. We do have one more option here to change our subject line. And after we change our subject line, we can do two things. We can either save this draft to work on it later, or we can publish this template. When we publish the template, it means it would be available for whatever we selected it as here. So if I publish the template, it will now be available to use for my list emails. If we don't publish the template, and let's just say we hit save draft, I'm not going to be able to grab this template for my list emails. So just a note, it's really great if you're working on templates and you don't want it yet available to your users, just hit save draft. Don't hit publish to template. So I'm going to go ahead and hit publish to template because in our next section, I'm going to show you how to send out a list email.